everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess. Welcome to this new deep dive course where we'll be talking about the Slav defense. And we know the Slav is one of the most solid approaches we can play against d4. And as I like saying, this is a defense for a lifetime. You can play against d4, you can play the Slav in all of your games. If you follow the opening rules, if you know the ideas, then you'll get a middle game, a solid middle game, and hopefully you can equalize or even more get the advantage. So the Slav, we played against the Queen's Gambit, so white, here he plays c4. Even if he plays a move like knight f3, we can still play knight f6, and when he plays c4, then we play c6, and we still have the Slav. In order to play the Slav, we need to place our pawn on c6, and there is a huge difference between playing the Slav and the Queen's Gambit declined, and the difference is when we play c6, we support the center with c6, and if we play e6 instead, we are also supporting the center, but the main difference is bishop c8 is inside the pawn chain. When we play the Slav, we still have some hope regarding bishop c8, and in a lot of variations we end up playing bishop f5 or bishop g4. And then, once the bishop is outside the pawn chain, then we play e6. So, this is the main move order, c4, c6. And white, well, he has some ways of playing against the Slav. And of course, we are going to cover all of these options in this deep dive course. And those options are taking on d5, and this is also known as the exchange variation. Here we just take with the pawn, and we get a symmetrical position where it looks like we are going to get drawish lines because of the c-file and all the trades that may happen there, but the truth is we have almost every single piece on board, and we can still fight for the advantage as white or black, despite having this symmetrical position. So this change variation, definitely something we need to study. White, he has other ideas, such as knight f3. Here we play knight f6, and now he has the e3 system. This is a system where he protects the pawn on c4 right from the get-go, but at the same time his bishop c1 remains inside the pawn chain. There's another system which is the two knights variation where he plays knight c3. And here, well, as black we have a wide choice. We can take on c4, we can play a6. This is known as the Chebanenko Slav. If we play e6, and you probably saw this triangle system before, this is a semi-Slav. We call it semi-Slav because the bishop is now inside the pawn chain. If the bishop goes out, it is like a pure Slav. We can also play like this, and this is the Schlechter Slav, where we try playing the Slav together with the Grunfeld defense. We have like two approaches in one. So we have a lot of possibilities, and the main lines, as I was saying, the two knights variation, this is definitely one of the main lines. The e3 system is another main line. Then I would say this change variation counts as a main line as well, despite being an exchange variation.
Buying individual chess courses to add to your collection can get expensive, and waiting for the course or video you're looking for to go on sale can take weeks or even months. So, what's a chess enthusiast to do? Introducing the iChess Club, an exclusive community of chess enthusiasts that enjoy a wild range of benefits, including a permanent 40% discount on virtually all chess courses on our shop. Yes, 40% on all items anytime. But wait, there's more. For those of you who like physical DVDs, we offer unlimited free shipping on all items, anywhere in the world, anytime. You'll also get access to the entire iChess.club library, where we post over a dozen exclusive new videos every month. Our lineup of presenters is of much higher quality than anything you can find on YouTube, with exclusive videos by Simon Williams, Damian Lemos, Valery Lilov, Brian Smith, Eric Rosen you can't find anywhere else, and even private appearances by world's top grandmasters such as Anatoly Karpov, Judith Polgar, Susan Polgar, and more. There are dozens of other benefits as well, such as an additional 5% off all items already on sale, a free 30-minute preview of every single product in our shop, and the ability to purchase items at the sale price up to 30 days after the sale has ended. There are so many benefits we can't possibly list them all in this video. So, join the iChess Club community today and start saving. Joining is easy and you can cancel at any time. So, what are you waiting for? Sign up today.
And, well, White, he can try other systems as well. If he starts with this move, I can play knight f6, and we'll eventually transpose into a well-known system for us. So I think the sublines, they start here after knight f3, knight f6. This is that position where White has sublines to consider. We have, for instance, the Fianchero variation, which reminds me a lot of the Catalan system, but here there is a difference. We haven't played e6 yet. The Catalan works best when black has the pawn on e6. Here this is not the case, and we can still develop our bishop, not to mention that our pawn on c6, c6 d5 is successfully blocking White's bishop's diagonal. So, I mean, this system is possible. This requires some study, but I think black is more than okay in this line, and we'll see, of course, during next chapters. White, he can consider other moves like knight bd2, which this move is tricky. Of course, he wants to protect the pawn on c4, but yeah, he's committing the knight to d2. He can no longer place his knight on c3. So this move has some disadvantages. Queen c2, this is probably, I mean, if we consider sublines, then queen c2 is probably the most serious one. He protects the pawn on c4, and at the same time he's waiting till we show our cards. I mean, if we play something like e6, now he knows our bishop is inside the pawn chain, so he can decide whether to play e3 or this. Now it's different. He's trying to transpose into a Catalan, and a lot of ideas for White as well. Against queen c2, and this is something we'll cover during next chapters. Against queen c2, we have two good ideas. One of them, as we'll see, is this. And this is what I like about the Slav. We are super flexible here because he played queen c2. Now we can try winning a tempo, playing bishop f5. And this is our main line. And against queen c2, we can also consider this move. He's gonna move the queen one more time, and then we take the chance to play bishop f5, e6, and we'll exploit his queen's position by developing our pieces and attacking his queen. So a lot of lines to consider, and other sublines, knight c3. I mean, if he wants to play knight c3 first, usually there's no difference between knight f3 or knight c3. He'll end up playing this move sooner or later. So knight c3. Here we play knight f6. During first moves, we are not really interested in taking the pawn on c4 because, well, this is possible. It is a variation, but we are not really interested in playing lines like this. It is well known that white has a lot of resources to attack our pawns, and these concepts, we learned them from the Queen's Gambit Accepted. We know our b5, c4 structure is quite weak. We are also down in development. We are far behind in development, so I'm not really interested in defending this position as black. It would be different if I have a lot of pieces developed and then taking on c4 is another story, because this is just an example, but in this position, for instance, I already have a knight on f6. Imagine I play the Chevanenko. Let's say he plays a random move like h3. Now it's different because I already have my pawn on a6. I have some pieces outside, so my queen side looks stronger. So taking on c4 is part of our ideas, but doing so in the first moves, it is not recommended. So knight c3 takes c4, we are not playing this, and knight f3 taking on c4, again, this is not what we are looking for. We know it's easy for white to exploit our queenside weaknesses. Just to show you an example, here takes takes, he plays b3, and sooner or later he'll end up getting the pawn back. So white, he gets a better position by simple means. So before we start analyzing the main lines, let's see after c6, knight c3, knight f6. Let's see two minor moves by white here, apart from knight f3 and e3. Those are major alternatives, major moves, I should say. Here, let's see what happens if he tries to play a move like bishop f4 or bishop here. These two moves, they have an idea. White wants to develop his bishop before playing e3. We know e3 is the most solid system for him, but a lot of players, they don't like playing with the bishop inside the pawn chain. As you can see, white, he's got a passive bishop now, whereas black, he can still develop his bishop c8 before playing e6. So white, following this way of thinking, he's gonna try bishop f4 or bishop here. But these moves, trust me, these moves are not good for white, at least in this position, because now we have a reason to take on c4. And the reason is b5 is our next move, and if he plays a4 first, trying to stop b5, here I have this move. Usually this move is not working, but here we are attacking the bishop on f4. We are winning a huge tempo, and white, he's not losing, but it is fair to say he lost his opening advantage, and I mean, usually he tends to get a worse position. He's down a pawn, and he doesn't have any compensation. whether he plays bishop here or here, I see stuff like bishop f5. I mean, I'm up a pawn, I'm attacking. e4 is not even possible because I win a second pawn. So, yeah, even knight b4 here. Attacking the pawn on d4. Bishop f5 is coming next. So, honestly, I don't understand why White should play this. He's just getting a worse position for nothing. So here, bishop f4, remember this key concept. Knight d5 is next. I mean, if he plays a4, knight d5, and we basically keep our extra pawn. In positions like this, if the bishop goes to the king side, I would also consider playing something like e6 or even e5. I don't mind giving a pawn back if I can play bishop b4 and queen a5. And it looks like I'll get a crushing attack already. So bishop f4, it is easy to understand why this is a bad move. And before we finish, this line takes, if he plays e4, here I play b5, and White, it is tough for him to create counterplay now with a4, because I play b4 and I attack his knight on c3. His a4 move would be stronger if he had the knight on b1, but this is different, and it looks like he'll continue losing pawns. So bishop f4, easy to realize that is a bad move, and this makes more sense. I mean, this is going to be played more often than bishop f4, but this is a move that works when black has the pawn on e6, because if we had the pawn on e6, then we would be under a pin, but here there's no pin. And against moves like this, we have a lot of ways of reacting, and first thing we should realize is that bishop takes knight is not a threat. Even if it is white to move and he takes the knight on f6, I can take, for instance, with the g-pawn, and I bring a side pawn to the center. I get the bishop pair, so we are not under a pin. This is not really dangerous for us, and we have two good moves in my opinion. One of them is taking on c4, and at this time we can make a rule when white plays a sideline like bishop f4 or bishop g5 at an early stage, the punishment is taken on c4. So this is one of the moves. And another move I like, believe it or not, is knight e4. And this move is possible. I mean, it is always possible, but here it is strong because we attack his bishop. We win a tempo. Now if he moves the bishop somewhere, I can take the knight on c3 and I destroy his queen side. And if he takes, and this is likely to happen, and here after pawn takes, it is a difficult situation for white, because if he plays the natural looking move e3, then he's in trouble. We win a piece with queen a5 check. And I've had the chance of playing this trick in at least 3 or 4 games during my career. They were blitz games, but still, it is something that can happen in this variation. And e3, it is a natural mistake too, because white, it is not easy for him to attack the pawn on e4. If he moves the queen, first of all, the pawn on d4 is hanging, and second of all, as black, we can protect this pawn. We can play bishop f5. That is worst case scenario. We also have ideas like this, and it is tough for white to protect the pawn on d4. In other words, our pawn on e4 gives us a strong advantage. I mean, a lot of space, and white, he cannot play a basic move, which is knight f3. He cannot place the knight there, and that means he's gonna be far behind in development. So yeah, e3, as I was saying, queen a5. Maybe in this line, after bishop here, knight e4, takes. Maybe he has to play something like queen d2. But okay, here I like this. As I was saying, we can try putting a lot of pressure on the d4 pawn. And another line I like is f6. Because here, well, no matter where he moves the bishop, we have a powerful break in the center. I mean, bishop here or bishop f4, we are going to meet both moves with e5. And at first glance, it looks like we are playing bad moves as black, but the truth is we have strong development, more than what we think, and bishop b4 is on the table. As you can see, there are no knights protecting white's queen side, so a move like this, the possibility of the pin is quite dangerous. For instance, here, well, queen b6 here, I don't think it's... I mean, it is possible, but maybe he plays bishop e3. We cannot play bishop b4 yet, but after pawn takes, we can play the simple queen takes queen. And after both bishop takes or king takes, we can just take, or we can add bishop b4 just in case, king here. As you can see, we have a lot of possibilities, especially because his king is in a weird situation. Here, I'm wondering if I can mate him somehow. I mean, that king there, I don't think that king is gonna survive there for a long time. f3 maybe, I can castle, and yeah, bishop here, rook e8. I'm curious. I mean, I don't know what that computer says, but I can just double check. So yeah, I have to move the webcam box for some seconds. Okay, so this is a decisive advantage for black already, and well, that is a bit surprising. I thought this was a clear advantage, but yeah, if we understand his king is at risk and he has no development at all, then yeah, it makes a lot of sense that black is already winning. So this is good to know, by the way. After pawn takes, queen takes, yeah, king takes d2 looks suspicious. This bishop b4 and knight d7. We play in gambit mode, but we get a crushing attack with a stronger development. So after queen takes, bishop takes, this is the best move for white. It looks like a wise decision not to take with the king, but okay, here I take. Despite having double pawns, I still have a huge advantage because he cannot develop his king side. He cannot play knight f3. If he plays this move, then apart from taking, that's interesting, I can play knight a6 and knight b4 or knight c5. There's no need of playing bishop takes. I mean, I could, but there's no need of offering my bishop pair. There's no need of allowing this move for white. So I can just play this, and against this, knight c5, h6 is coming, and I like black's position. Even here, in this crazy looking position, I still think our development should pay off. And the ancients are also, I mean, they also agree black is much better. So these lines with bishop here from white, they are suspicious. We have knight e4, that is one of the moves I like, and this is likely to happen. As I was saying, most of your opponents, if they don't know the trick, they are going to play e3 and then it's game over with queen a5. But if you want to play a positional approach after bishop here, the move I recommend is d takes c4. This is as good as knight e4, and the thing is, white, if he takes on f6, as we said before, this is not a threat, because, well, here I can even take with the e-pawn, opening some diagonals for my bishop. I still have an extra pawn, and I'm super solid as black. Bishop pair, extra pawn. Now with bishop b4 in, this is like a way of protecting my c4 pawn. I'm showing this line because this is one of the tricks we need to be aware of. As you can see here, we lose the rook and there's nothing we can do to stop it. So take c4, taking on c4, takes, e3, here b5, a4. I can just play, instead of this, which allows this variation, instead of bishop b4, we can just play something like bishop b7, for instance, or b4, attacking his knight and winning a tempo. I can protect the c4 pawn later with bishop e6, but bishop b7, for instance, in this line where he just played bishop takes f6, and where he offers his bishop pair, I don't mind giving the b5 pawn back. I mean, I don't mind giving the pawn back. Takes, if he plays knight takes b5, now bishop b4 makes more sense. It is a check, there's no queen f3, he has to go back. I can even castle. I don't think he can take the c4 pawn. I take on g2, but you get the concept. I have a lot of open lines, my bishops are very good, and he still has the king on e1, so this is quite dangerous for him. I even consider stuff like f5 and f4. Imagine how tough white's position is that the engines are recommending this move, which is completely nonsense. I don't know why white should play h3. I have no idea, but that's what that computer is recommending. So yeah, basically this bishop g5, we take on c4. Again, if he wants to continue with his idea, we can just protect the pawn on c4, and we have so many ways of playing this. As I was saying, bishop b7, b4, this might be the best move. Then I have a lot of ways of protecting the pawn on c4. So yeah, this is not good for white. This line, simple and clear, it is better for black. And on any database you can find a lot of games confirming this assessment. And just before we finish, if he plays something like a4, I mean bishop g5, we take, and a4, here I like a move like bishop f5, stopping e4, and then we can also try knight to e4 or knight bd7. We still have the extra pawn, by the way. Or I also like a move like queen a5. I really like this move because he's been moving too many pawns. He's not really developing much, and if he plays bishop d2, I can even think about a move like e5. Fearless but powerful. No knight moves for white, no discovered moves. I mean, if knight e5, I can just move my queen to b6, and he's losing more and more material. And if he plays, well, if he takes, then I can take. And this position, I mean, I don't want to say black's winning, but it is close. Extra pawn, a lot of weaknesses for black on the queen side. We have a stronger development, a powerful queen on e5, and yeah, he has no development. So this queen a5, and after bishop d2, e5, yeah, it looks like white is in trouble. Maybe he has to play something like e3, but okay, here he'll play the rest of the game with an isolated pawn, and for the time being, he's not getting his pawn back. So as black, all we need to do is come back home with our queen, finish our development, and apart from equalizing, we also got an extra pawn. So okay, there's a reason why these moves are sublines. Otherwise, if they were strong enough, they would be main lines. But it is good to know how to play a refutation to these ideas. And of course, during next videos, we'll start studying more serious lines from white. That's all for this introduction. I hope you found this useful. I hope you could learn something. And of course, I want to see you guys in my next chapters. Thank you. Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess. Welcome to this new video where we'll be covering the knight bd2 variation of the Slav defense. And we get this variation after the moves d4, d5, c4, c6. White plays knight f3, we play knight f6. So far, well-known move order for us. And here we'll analyze the knight bd2 variation. As we said in the introduction, this is a subline, but still we need to study this, and as long as we know the ideas, we'll be just fine. White, he protects the pawn on c4, and he simply wants to, if possible, to do defiant with g3, bishop g2, and then he kingside castles. So, as we know in the Slav, compared to the Queen's Gambit declined, we need to, or we want to, get our bishop c8 out. And here we'll do so by playing bishop to f5. Something that happens in the Slav a lot is that moves like bishop g4 are usually met with knight to e5. So we'll play a move like this as long as we pin the knight on f3. Otherwise, there's no point in playing this move because he plays knight e5 and we need to move the bishop one more time. That's not the idea. So a move like bishop f5 is much better. And then, if we are allowed, we'll play e6 next, and we get the bishop outside the pawn chain. So this is a great opportunity for us to finish our queenside development. And there is a variation, which is not the knight bd2 one, but I think analyzing this is going to help us understand one of the key concepts of the Slav. When he has the knight on d2, his queen b3 ideas are not powerful. However, if he had the knight on c3, queen b3 is something we need to be careful about. So, just to put an example. Here, after knight bd2, we can play bishop f5. Let's say he takes, I take. Now, queen b3. This is not dangerous for us because it is easy to protect b7. We can play queen c7, even queen c8. bishop c8, we have all sort of moves in order to protect b7. Now let's see what happens if white has the knight on c3. Against knight c3, which is the two knights variation, and as I said in the introduction, this is one of the main lines, here black has a lot of moves. This, a6, taking on c4, e6, those are main lines, but you're probably asking what happens if we play bishop f5. Well, if we play bishop f5, now it's different. He takes, we are likely to take with the c pawn, we don't want to lose control over the center, and now queen b3. The difference is, apart from b7, d5 is also under attack, because he's got the knight on c3. Not to mention, he also has ideas like knight b5, so that is the main difference. Here if I play queen c7 or queen c8, he can consider taking the pawn on d5. And if I play a move like b6, well, I defend my pawn successfully, but I'm full of weaknesses on light squares, and this is a disaster for us. After e4, we take, he can play knight to e5, mating threat on f7, and after this, bishop b5 check, and he's definitely crushing us. We have no defense, and after this, d5, and we're going to lose sooner or later, and probably sooner than later, because we have the king on e8, and there's no way to castle. So why am I showing you these lines? Well, because we need to understand the main difference in the move order, and we also need to realize this knight bd2 white plays. It is decent, it is solid, but he's not, I mean, he's not playing an active move with knight bd2. He's not being aggressive enough. So after knight bd2, we can afford playing bishop f5. Against knight c3, then we need to play something else, because white, he's basically trying to take on d5, followed by queen b3. But we'll see this main line in future chapters. And now let's focus on knight bd2. And here we know the reasons why we play bishop f5. Remember, before we continue, if we play a move like this, we allow knight e5. We play this move if we pin the knight on f3, otherwise we don't. So, okay, knight bd2, bishop f5, and usually in this position white plays knight to h4. This is the main idea when white plays the knight d2 system. Other moves are not dangerous. If he takes, well, we usually take with the pawn. This actually gives us a free square for our knight. If we play knight c6, we'll have a much better position, because we have ideas like knight b4, we have the c file, and our knight on c6 is much stronger than his knight on d2. I mean, it is easy to realize that. So c takes d5 is not part of white's strategy. So knight h4 is the main move. Queen b3, well, here I don't like playing b6, although I could, but queen b6 is much better, even queen c7. But I'm not afraid of trading queens off. This is something that we'll see in a lot of Slav lines, this queen b3, queen b6 confrontation, and the key is, if he takes, then we take with the pawn, and suddenly we have an active rook. The rook on a8 is playing, we haven't moved the rook, but the rook is already playing, and we have a serious initiative on the queen side. White, in the meantime, he doesn't have targets, he doesn't have a strong development, and well, if we can try knight a6, knight b4. That would be awesome, even if he plays a3. I'll play this, and knight b4, he cannot really stop it because rook a1 is hanging, and he cannot play rook b1 either, because my bishop is on f5. So yeah, this position where we trade queens off is good for us, and well, we are lucky to see this position because we can learn a new concept, which is a key concept in the Slav defense. When we have queen b3, queen b6, there is a move white can play, and the move is c5. And now we need to be careful. When he plays c5, he's waiting till we take on b3. Of course, previously we had that powerful rook on a8. Well, here it is the opposite. He'll take with the a pawn, and now he's the one with an active rook. So we are usually trying to avoid positions like this. They are playable, but imagine we play something like this. He plays b4. He's got a lot of play on the queen side. I mean, despite queen side being closed, he's got more space, a lot of room for maneuvers, and we don't have any ruptures there. So I don't like taking on b3 in general. I mean, we have exceptions, of course, but usually when he plays c5, we are happy to go back to c7. And now you're probably saying white won a tempo. Sure, but that position is not the same. Previously he had the pawn on c4. He had an open center. Once he plays c5, we are happy to go back, the center is closed, and that allows in the future an e5 rupture or even b6. And suddenly we have a lot of ways of opening the queen side. That queen on b3 is not doing much, and I like the e5 break. I mean, b6 of course is part of our strategy, but I'll play knight b7. One day I'll play e5, and both d4 and c5 pawns are under attack. This is a great position for us. It's like when he plays c5, he's active for the time being, but it's like he's killing his queenside chances because he can no longer take on d5. So one more time, and I think this is a key concept to understand, not only in this position but Slav in general. Queen b6, queen b3, queen b6. If he takes, we are more than happy. And if he plays c5, we are not taking, we go back to c7. And then the center is closed and we have ruptures. This wouldn't be possible if he had the pawn on c4, because this move is always a possibility, and we wouldn't want to open the c file with the king on e8. So after bishop f5, knight h4, we'll start analyzing this move in a minute, but before we start analyzing that move, I have to say that if white plays e3, we can play the safe e6, and this is also what we are going to do in the main line. The thing is, if white plays natural moves, then we can play bishop d6. We place the bishop in this diagonal. There's no need of playing bishop e7 because there's no bishop g5. So bishop d6, castles. I can castle as well. Knight bd7, and we are playing a position where both bishops are out, and I'm talking about bishop f5 and bishop d6. Meanwhile, white, he still has his bishops inside, so I don't think white has any advantage. We are talking about an equal position with chances for both sides, but black's pieces couldn't be better. I mean, if I could add a move, I would say h6, and then my bishop, and I can hide my bishop on h7 in case he wants to play knight h4. But talking about knight h4, if he plays e3, I mean, if I want to keep my bishop, I can play h6 right now, and then bishop h7, but I'm not really concerned about knight h4. Because, well, if I play bishop here, he can just take it. If I play this, well, he could try trapping my bishop with f3 and g4, or queen b3, and once I play queen b6, h3, g4, and knight takes bishop. These are well-known possibilities, but here's the thing. After e3, e6, knight h4, I'm not playing bishop g4 nor bishop g6. I'm playing bishop e4. And this is different because if he takes that bishop, we could take with the knight. I mean, I think this is good. We attack his knight. We plan bishop b4 check. I mean, we have a lot of possibilities here. That king looks suspicious, to say the least. But another move we have after bishop e4 is knight takes. I can take with the pawn. And only God knows how to find a good square for this knight. We have this move coming. And okay, yes, he can play this. I don't know if I have to play this yet, but that knight here looks ugly. No squares for this fianchetto knight. We won't see that often, but that is the main concept of this line. White, if he wants the bishop pair, he has to pay a huge price. And here, talking about moves, well, g5 is possible, but I think this is even stronger, as the ancients recommend, and then queen a5. Basically, we can try playing an endgame where our pieces are much better. We can also play with queens on board, because white has a dubious position, but this, I honestly love this for black. g5, h5, that knight is going nowhere, and yeah, white, I don't know how to say this, but that bishop, yeah, doesn't have good squares either. We have multiple ways of improving our position. The safest one being king e7, and depending on what he plays, maybe opening that position or not. But this is a risk-free endgame for black, and we clearly have a pull, an advantage in this position. So that goes after e3, which is a quiet move, but yeah, very possible move. I mean, most of your opponents are likely to play e3 here against bishop f5, but if your opponent studies the knight d2 line against the Slav, he's likely to play this move, because that is the main idea. And here is where we play bishop to e4. This is my favorite move. There is another move which is bishop to e6, and I also like this move because that knight h4 is in some sort of limbo. I mean, in the corner, not doing much, and our bishop is not on c8. It's not like we are wasting a move here. The bishop on e6 is okay. We do attack the pawn on c4, and after e3, I can simply play knight bd7. I also like g6 here, trying to play it like this. But knight bd7, there's a game, Huseman against Rostein. This game was played in 2017, and you'll find this in the PGN files. White played bishop e2. Black decided to take on c4. This is possible as well, but I don't mind trading pieces off. Again, this, followed by bishop g7. I think black is more than okay. All of my pieces are doing something, that knight on h4 is not doing much, and I'll try playing c5 one day. It's like a Grunfeld position where white is not doing good things with his pieces. I mean, yeah, I don't find other words, to be honest. But yeah, black took on c4, knight takes, he played bishop d5. I also like this move. I guess black didn't want to stay with his bishop on e6, and by doing this, he makes sure he plays e6. The bishop here is not going to be trapped because worst case scenario, I take this knight or this knight when he plays knight f3. So this position is a nice one for black. White played a3. Here c5, okay, I can also castle and play c5 later. I guess after a3 he was trying to play b4. So that's why black played c5 first. And we are looking at an equal position. Probably black is a bit better because of my bishops. Clearly my bishops are in open and free diagonals, whereas white, yeah, the only good bishop he has is bishop e2. The other bishop, for the time being, is stuck inside the pawn chain. So, yeah, this game, it was eventually drawn, but this is full of possibilities. These symmetrical looking positions, they look drawish, but trust me, we have almost every single piece on board. Anything can happen, and our pieces are ideally placed. Well, I don't know if ideally, but they are well placed. They are active. That is what really matters. So we see we have more than just one move against this knight d2 line. Bishop e6 is quite solid, but our main idea is to play bishop e4. We don't mind losing the bishop pair, but what we want is white to play a position where his knight on h4 is not well placed. So usually white plays queen b3 in positions like this. There's another move which is e3, and actually we are like transposing here because we can play e6, and this is a position we already saw. White, he can play bishop e2. Yeah, he's not gonna take the bishop for obvious reasons. The knight doesn't have... Well, he has to play this, otherwise he loses it. So, yeah, if he plays e3, e6... Here what we have to do is understand that position. There's no point in memorizing. Most of black moves are straightforward, simple. We get our pieces out. White castles, black played bishop d6. Again, there's no need of bishop e7 because there's no bishop g5. And here we also have some attacking chances on the king side. For the time being, his defender, which would be knight f3, his defender is missing, so let's go and fire a kingside attack. So in this game, we are following Povosian against Sadik. White took on e4, and black decided to take with the pawn. And as we'll see, yeah, this is only move. And then black found the right moment to start fighting with g5 and h5. We still have the king on e8, so we can even castle queenside. And in practice, this is super tough to defend as white. And still, his bishop c1 is sleeping there, and white, in this game, he wasn't able to create any counterplay. So in this position, I love this move, this is our main idea, but even if we play something like this, I like black's position, because in the Slav, when we play positions like this, which reminds me of a Dutch system, we basically got rid of bishop c8 if we had the bishop on c8, that bishop would be terrible. And here we got rid of it. It is a closed position. Knight pair is better than his bishops. If that position is open, then his bishops are better, but this is super closed, and knights, they are perfect. And we even have the e5 square under control. White, in the meantime, I don't see how he's going to activate his bishops. So, nice position for us. We have more than just one move. And now, after knight h4, bishop e4, we understand why white usually plays queen b3. And as you'll find in the BGN files, both queen b6 and queen c7 are possible. And it's up to you. I mean, if you don't mind playing a queen-less position, then I think queen b6 is the move for you. If you prefer keeping more pieces on board, then queen c7 is the other option. Queen c7, this game would be Mamedyarov against Gelfand. Of course, you'll find this on the BGN files. And queen b6, honestly, this is the move I would play because, first of all, we are playing black. Equalizing is part of our opening mission. And here with the Slav, we are likely to achieve so. And second, because queen b6, if he takes the queen, again, we open the a-file for our rook. And this is not a slight advantage, it is a huge one. White is quite passive, and usually we get a mobile pawn majority on the queen side. Like, one day we can try taking on c4, b5, the knight usually. We have a lot of ways of improving our minor pieces. So, queen b6 is... no, not b6, remember this. This was mouse lit, by the way, but it is good to know that b6, in positions like this, we usually create weaknesses on the queen side. So, again, queen b6 is my choice. And remember that if he plays c5, we are not going to take, because then he opens the a-file for him. So after c5, we are safe and sound with queen c7. His center is closed, and we are the ones opening that position when we consider it. I mean, whenever we think it's good, we'll play e5 or b6. And again, white is losing all of his power in the center. So, after queen b3, this is the move I recommend, and I found a game where white took the bishop. Now, yeah, we can take both ways. To be honest, in this position I like knight takes e4, because we're trading too many pieces, and white, I mean, all of his pieces are on the first rank, except knight h4, which is a bad piece. And now we have the a-file, we have e6 and bishop b4 check. White could even have some issues stopping bishop b4. So, yeah, in the game he played e3. If this, well, we can always take. This is not a huge issue because now we win more squares for our pieces. I mean, we have a very active position, we don't really care about double pawns. But after pawn takes, I can even play e6 here. And of course, my idea is bishop b4 check. And then I take on f2 when he plays king d1. So I strongly recommend you watch this game. White played e3, e6, and bishop d3. And black ended up winning this endgame, where at some point, I'll show you a couple of extra moves, black got that pawn, the queenside pawn majority I was talking about before. Here knight d6, I like it. These 4 pawns or even 5, they're going to advance one day. What I like about positions like this is that this is super easy to play as black, and his bishops, it's almost impossible to activate them. And if he plays a move like b3 here, for instance, this is what I like about the Slav. My moves are, I don't know if they are easy, but they are not impossible to see. I mean, it is, we get activity out of nowhere and we try exploiting small advantages. So after knight d6, well, what happened in this game is that white took, and if he plays something else, I think I can take, and then I can start playing positions where my pawns are on light squares. Bishop e7 is 100 times better than bishop d2, and I'm fully dominating on light squares. This is like my dreaming position when I play the Slav, and this is risk-free. So what happened, and this is one of the reasons why I like this game, Krishna, I think it's Krishna against Botvinnik. Yes, and you'll find this on the database as well. Okay, white took, black took with the e-pawn, taking with the c-pawn looks a bit suspicious. We take with the e-pawn, and then b5, and then we continue advancing on the queen side, and our pawn structure looks much better than white's, and black eventually won this pre-endgame. And of course, needless to say, the opening result was a successful one for black. So and that's all for the knight d2 variation. A lot of concepts. Remember, there's no need of memorizing moves. What we need to do in variations like this, and in chess in general, we need to understand the ideas, and then we can try memorizing. But I mean, understanding is key in order to play an opening successfully. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you could learn something. And of course, I want to see you guys in my next chapters. Thank you.